Get a grip, then get a chip. Won't even trip. Though my cup was running over, I took only a sip. Stay hippin', then I'm hopping, I'm dropping. It won't be flopping, no shock. That whatever I'm selling, you will be copping. He was the strongest, though he was the one that cried. And he chose to kill his brother because he was from that side. And why? He chose his son because this one had pride. And instead of the narrow road, he chose the one that's wide. Sometimes the one that won was the one that tried. And the one who pulled the gun was the one that died. Looking good, a good look is the one that's fine. If I had to pick, fly would be the one that's mine. G-O-D, in the place to be. Attendee, Hard Knocks University. And since kindergarten, they've been hiding the knowledge. Homeboy is self-taught, never went to college. I'm brown skinned, I'm from Pelon. Rainy alarm, then I remain cool and calm. Reading Psalm, fire like napalm bomb. As we proceed to give you what you need. We are in the information age on Do You Know Your Value page. It's the content creator with force like Darth Vader. Back on the track with the facts and all that. One path is the way that I'm taking, getting closer to God in a tight situation. Tonight we're going to continue going over the Annotated Glossary from Cracking the Code, 3rd edition, starting where we left off. So without further ado, we're going to start this now. Remedy. Remedy means any remedial right to which an aggrieved party is entitled with or without resort to a tribunal. UCC 1201, 34. Remedy is the means by which the violation of a right is prevented, redressed, or compensated. Blacks First, new. The purpose is to make it clear that both remedy and rights as defined include those remedial rights of self-help, which are among the most important bodies of rights under this Act. Remedial rights being those which an aggrieved party can resort on his own motion. UCC 1201, 34. Rights. See excerpt from speech by Theodore Roosevelt at the beginning of this book. Corporation Soul. Remitter. Remitter means a person who purchases an instrument. Remitter means a person who purchases an instrument for its issuer if the instrument is payable to an identified person other than the purchaser. UCC 3103, 11. Res. Latin. In the civil law. A thing, an object. As a term of the law, this word has a very wide and extensive signification, including not only things which are objects of property, but also such as are not capable of individual ownership. And in Old English law, it is said to have a general import, comprehending both corporeal and incorporeal things of whatever kind, nature, or species. By res, according to the modern civilians, is meant everything that may form an object of rights in opposition to persona, which is regarded as a subject of rights. Res, therefore, in its general meaning, comprises actions of all kinds, while in its restricted sense, it comprehends every object of right except actions. This has reference to the fundamental division of the institutes that all law relates to either persons, to things, or to actions. In modern usage, the term is particularly applied to an object, subject matter, or status, considered as a defendant in an action or as an object against which directly proceedings are taken. Thus, in a prize case, the captured vessel is the res, and proceedings of this character are said to be in rem. See in personam, in rem. Res may also denote the action of proceeding as when a cause, when not between adversary parties, is entitled. In regards, Blacks First, see note in personam, in rem. Prize law, the system of laws and rules applicable to the capture of prize at sea, its condemnation, rights of the captors, distribution of the proceeds, etc. Blacks First. Prize and admiralty law, a vessel or cargo belonging to one of two belligerent powers apprehended or forcibly captured at sea by a war vessel or privateer of the other belligerent, and claimed as enemy's property and therefore liable to appropriation and condemnation under the laws of war. Blacks First. Compare booty. See Vice Admiralty Courts. Note, the strawman is a vessel under Admiralty law and also a prize in war. War was officially declared against American citizens by the U.S. government under FDR in the Amendatory Act of March 9, 1933, aka the Emergency Bank and Relief Act, to the Trading with the Enemy Act of October 6, 1916. Prize on land is called booty. Res judicata, a matter adjudged. a thing judicially acted upon or decided, a thing or matter settled by judgment. Blacks first. Residence, the act or fact of living or regularly staying at or in some place for the discharge of a debt or the enjoyment of a benefit. Merriam-Webster's Online Dictionary 2002. Resources, money or any property that can be converted to meet needs, means of raising money or supplies, capabilities of raising wealth or to supply necessary wants, available means or capability of any kind. Black 6, see note. Note, the government looks upon Department of Health and Human Resources as just that. Retail, to sell small parcels and not in the gross, to sell in small quantities. Blacks, first, compare wholesale. Revenue, as applied to the income of a government, this is a broad and general term, including all public monies which the state collects and receives from whatever source and in whatever manner. Blacks first, see note. Note, government income, revenue, is a revenue of funds from the private venue into the public venue. Revenue agent, any duly authorized Commonwealth International Revenue Agent of the Department of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, 27 CFR subsection 250.11. See note below. Note, the above is the only definition of revenue agent in all of the Code of Federal Regulations, and elsewhere. Puerto Rico is a commonwealth. The IRS is ensconced in a private trust, Puerto Rico Trust number 62, that operates out of Puerto Rico. A revenue agent is an unregistered foreign agent operating on American soil in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938. Secretary of the Treasury is an abbreviation of the actual title. Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, see Secretary, Internal Revenue Service. Revised Article 9. Revised Article 9 governs any transaction that creates a security interest in personal property or fixtures by contract, consignments, agricultural liens, sales of accounts, shadow paper, payment intangibles, promissory notes, and other UCC security interests. Section 9109, William C. Smith, ABA, or American Bar Association, Journal, August 2001, page 53. Rights. Rights includes remedies, UCC 120136, as a noun and taken in a context. A right signifies a power, privilege, faculty, or demand inherent in one person and incident upon another. Rights are defined generally as powers of free action, and the primal rights pertaining to men are undoubtedly human beings purely as such, being grounded in personality and existing antecedently to their recognition by positive law, but leaving the abstract moral sphere and given to the term a juristic content. A right is well defined as a capacity residing in one man of controlling, with the assent and assistance of the state, the action of others. Blacks first, compare remedy. Note, rights can only descend upon one in a corporate capacity and are inescapably linked with remedy. The concept of a remedy, the alter ego of a right, immediately involves corporate entities and officers. The aggrieved party assessing his rights. Autonomous sovereign beings neither have nor need rights, and a true sovereign neither relies on nor draws from nor hopes for the slightest shred of a right. Rather, a sovereign governs himself, herself, without intervention of any party other than God, and exercises the power that inheres within him or her without compunction. See Corporation Soul. Quote from Theodore Roosevelt on sovereigns at the beginning of this book. Roman civil law, see note. Note, there are fundamentally only two kinds of law in human society. Real law, of which original English common law as well as commercial law are particular cultural styles and developments, and Roman civil law. The latter is a perversion of the former. Common law and commercial law, as expressions of real law pertaining to free sovereign people, are independent of organized governments. In common law, for instance, a king cannot access, without permission, the meanest commoner's hovel, which is the source of the phrase. A man's home is his castle. Roman civil law is the law of government rulers, kings, princes, emperors, dictators, etc. Over the centuries, governments have usurped the forms, trappings, and genius of common law and commercial law, transforming them into forms of Roman civil law as tools of rulership. The spirit of truth, fairness, and justice of real law have been stifled and distorted from their just intent into means to implement tyranny. The principles of both real law and Roman civil law are simple. Real law is expression of two fundamental precepts. One, every man has free will and is therefore sovereign over himself and his own domain. A Man is fully entitled to do whatever he wishes with his life except transgress against the similar inherent right of others. A man who damages another loses his sovereignty proportionate with that which is necessary to provide rectitude and recompense for the one wrong. In short, thou shalt not transgress against the rights of thy neighbor. 2. All social intercourse, both express, written, bilateral, and implied, unwritten, ratified by acts, not signature, is contract. Therefore, whatever contract you enter into, you are obligated to fulfill. Roman civil law has but one principle. The will of the ruler has the force and effect of law. All human governments are necessarily some form of Roman civil law, because no basis in real law can exist for any ruler to rule. In other words, to usurp, enforce by law, the rights, options, or property of another man. Also, the fact that all life is contract is the source of the timeless maxim of law. Contract makes the law. This maxim is found in virtually every culture, language, and legal system in the world. All law, both expressed and implied, is inherently contract. An express contract is formalized in writing, specifying the various rights and duties of the parties and all the terms and conditions upon which the parties agree, with the voluntary consent of each party indicated by a signature. An implied contract is ratified by act instead of signature. An implied contract is formed, for instance, when one goes into a restaurant and orders a meal. Although no written contract is signed, a contract is formed nonetheless by the act of ordering and consuming the meal, on the basis of which one non-verbally consents to pay for it. Roman civil law functions chiefly by implied contract, ratified by the presumed implied assent of the ruled, through 1. Omitting to assert and preserve their own rights and freedom, vice the ruler. 2. Accepting benefits that the government offers, thereby incurring whatever obligations are contractually implied by the acceptance. The creditors of the bankrupt United States government operate against you via the presumption that they hold legal title of the property registered on the birth document, certificate, and thereafter the mirror image trade name, and that it is an open-ended lien against your rights, property, and labor as security to pay on the national debt. Redemption of the birth certificate and trade name eliminates all other claims concerning each. Sale. A sale consists in the passing of title from one seller to the buyer for a price. Section 2401. A present sale means a sale which is accomplished by the making of the contract. UCC 21061. Secretary. The Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, 27 CFR, subsection 250.11, ratification of acts of President and Secretary of the Treasury under Section 95A. The actions, regulations, rules, licenses, orders, and proclamations heretofore and hereafter taken, promulgated, made, or issued by the President of the United States or the Secretary of the Treasury since March 4th, 1933, pursuant to the authority conferred by Section 95A of this title, are approved and confirmed. 12 U.S.C. 95B. See Note, Revenue Agent. Note, the title Secretary of the Treasury is an abbreviation of the actual title, Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico. IRS is domiciled in Puerto Rico on the Puerto Rico Trust Number 62, which makes Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico Paul H. O'Neill, at the time, trustee thereof. Secretary of the Treasury is not a U.S. government employee. He is an unregistered foreign agent operating in America in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938 and is the receiver in bankruptcy. Reorganization Plan Number 26 from 1950, Title 5, U.S.C. 903, Public Law 94-564, Legislative History, page 5,967. For the U.S. government, on behalf of the Federal Reserve creditors and the governor of both World Bank and International Monetary Fund, which are headquartered in Washington, D.C., as is easily discernible from the second cite above from 12 U.S.C. 95B, Secretary of the Treasury is openly accorded equal status with the President of the United States regarding all actions, regulations, rules, licenses, orders, and proclamations, thus confirming the Secretary's receiver status over the United States. The Department of the Treasury's website states that the Secretary oversees the activities of the department in serving as the financial agent for the United States government. Treasury Department claims a number of bureaus through which the Secretary administers the Chapter 11 bankruptcy, Comptroller of the Currency, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, Internal Revenue Service, United States Secret Service, United States Customs Service, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, Treasury Forfeiture Fund, Bureau of the Public Debt, United States Mint, Financial Management Service, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, Office of Thrift Supervision, United States Savings Bond Division, and Community Development Financial Institutions. Each bureau is assigned and engaged in its own mission, military objective, as ascribed by the Secretary, and openly publishes such. These bureaus and the personnel operating within them are unregistered foreign agencies and agents on American soil, also in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1938. The identifier, United States, is not a part of the official title for either Department of the Treasury or Secretary of the Treasury. In the popular TV series Mission Impossible and in the movies by the same name, after Mr. Phelps or his motion picture counterpart receives his instructions for the next impossible mission, the voice announces, "Your mission, should you decide to accept it," and later in the event that Mr. Phelps or his impossible mission team are caught, the admonishment, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge of you and your team. A mission, see mission, is a specific task or objective assigned to a member of a military unit or the unit itself. The Secretary is the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, aka Secretary of the Treasury, presently Paul H. O'Neill, who runs the de facto military units under him in military-style missions with his Impossible Mission Force, aka IMF, aka International Monetary Fund, of which O'Neill is governor, and also by managing each IMF, in other words, individual master file, in the Puerto Rico-based IRS, and of which there is one individual master file for every citizen of the United States. Trade name with a Social Security account number printed on a Social Security card, along with the strawman's all capital letters, nom de guerre, war name, see nom de guerre, mark of the beast, trade name printed thereon. The Wizard has owned outright the United States government since 1933 and has owned Hollywood, an indispensable resource in achieving the impossible mission since 1938. Secretary of the Treasury, see note Secretary. Note, an abbreviated form of the actual title, Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico. Secure party. Secure party means any of the following. A person in whose favor a security interest is created or provided for under a security agreement, whether or not any obligation to be secured is outstanding. B, a person that holds an agricultural lien. C, a cosigner. D, a person to which accounts, shadow paper, payment intangibles, or promissory notes have been sold. E, a trustee, indentured trustee, agent, collateral agent, or other security interest or agricultural lien is created or provided for. F, a person that holds a security interest arising under Section 2401, 2505, 4210, or 5118, or under Subdivision 3 of Section 2711 or Subdivision 5 of Section 10508. UCC 9102A72, a person or business that has a legal right to designated money and or goods of another. Securities, stock certificates, bonds, or other evidence of a secured indebtedness or of a right created in the holder to participate in the profits or assets distribution of a profit-making enterprise. More generally, written assurances for the return or payment of money, instruments given to their legal holders, right to money or other property. As such, securities have value and are used in regular channels of commerce. The basic purpose of the sale of securities is to raise capital for business and government. Barron's third. Security agreement. Security agreement means an agreement that creates or provides for security interests. UCC 9102A73. An agreement granting a creditor a security interest in personal property, which security interest is normally perfected either by the creditor taking possession of the collateral or by filing financing statements in the proper public records. Black 6. See attached security interest, fidelity bond, possessory lien. Security interest. Security interest means an interest in personal property or fixtures which secures payment or performance of an obligation. UCC 1201-37A. Interest in property obtained pursuant to security agreement. Black 6. Lien created by an agreement. Bankruptcy Code subsection 101. The legal right of one party to take, possess, or use the pledged money and or goods of a second party if the second party does not fulfill its obligation to the first party. See attach. Security agreement, perfection of security interest. Senate document number 43, 73rd Congress, first session, March 9th to June 16th, 1933. The ownership of all property is in the state. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government. In other words, law amounting to mere user. and use must be in accordance with law and subordinate to the necessities of the state. See note, in this state, Conference of Governors, March 6, 1933. Note, a likely source of the foregoing is Bernard and Baruch, the Knickerbocker Press, Albany, New York, August 8, 1918. We are living in a highly organized state of socialism. The state is all. The individual is of importance only as he contributes to the welfare of the state. His property is only his as the state does not need it. He must hold his life and his possessions at the call of the state. All objects and spaces and tangible and intangible property, including money in America and most of the world, represent debt. That is, all such things that have not presently been claimed under the UCC by a redemptor, sovereign. Non-sovereigns are mere users of everything they own. Everything is legally owned by the state. If you do not believe this, just stop paying property taxes or automobile registration fees and see what happens. Read in the background of the annual renewal sticker with the year printed on it. On the license plate of your car, it says official use only. The state holds a perfected security interest in your car because you chose to register it with the DMV. CUCC 9303. Basically, the state has the assets title and the owner has the liabilities, accountability for its use, unless, of course, the owner captures his or her straw man and sets things straight. If you examine the vehicle code of your state, you will find that there is no code law requiring registration of any automobile that is not used for the transportation of persons or property for hire or compensation. Registration of an automobile with the Department of Motor Vehicles is legal identification of the character of the property. In other words, non-private and is strictly voluntary. Send. Send in connection with a record or notification means to do either of the following. A, to deposit in the mail, deliver for transmission, or transmit by any other usual means of communication with postage or cost of transmission provided for, addressed to any address reasonable under the circumstances. B, to cause the record or notification to be received within the time that it would have been received if properly sent under subparagraph A, UCC 9102A74. Service mark, a name, phrase, or other device used to identify and distinguish the services of a certain provider. Service marks identify and afford protection to intangible things such as services, as distinguished from the protection already provided for marks, affixed to tangible things such as goods and products. Often shortened to mark, also spelled service mark, trademark. Black 7, see note, compare trademark, mark. Set off. A debtor's right to reduce the amount of a debt by any sum the creditor owes the debtor, the counterbalancing sum owed by the creditor. Black 7, a counterclaim or cross demand, a claim or demand which the defendant in an action sets off against the claim of the plaintiff as being his due, whereby he may extinguish the plaintiff's demand either in whole or in part according to the amount of the set-off. Set-off is a defense which goes not to the justice of the plaintiff's demand, but sets up a demand against the plaintiff to counterbalance his in whole or in part. Blacks first. See note, action, defendant. 7-point instruments. See note. Note, in commercial law, any document or instrument, including legal briefs, securities, promissory notes, affidavits, and contracts, must contain 7 essential elements to be valid. If any of these elements is missing, the paper is commercially defective, void, or expressly fraudulent. These essential elements are: 1. Accurate identification of the parties to the instrument, contract, or dispute. 2. Nature and content of the allegations or claims set forth with particularity. 3. Ledgering, accounting of the remedy or relief sought as recompense or compensation for specific wrongs or contractual violations or defaults. 4. Evidence of solvency, identification of the property sought, pledged as the stakes over which the dispute occurs, to be forfeited to the prevailing party to pay the debt, damage, and satisfy the judgment. Facts and laws, specific laws violated and facts set in evidence by exhibit. 6. Certification, statement under oath by a party asserting and alleging or claim that everything asserted is true, correct, and complete, whether criminal or civil. 7. Witnesses, third-party certification substantiating the legal identity of the party executing the instrument. Notary. Site draft, a bill of exchange for the immediate payment of money. Barron's 3rd. A bill of exchange for the immediate collection of money. Blacks 6. Signature, A person is not liable on an instrument unless 1. The person signed the instrument, or 2. The person is represented by an agent or representative who signed the instrument, and the signature is binding on the represented person under Section 3402. B. A signature may be made 1. Manually or by means of a device or machine, and 2. By the use of any name, including a trade name or assumed name, or by a word, mark, or symbol executed or adopted by a person with present intention to authenticate a writing. UCC 3401. Signed. Signed includes any symbol executed or adopted by a party with present intention to authenticate a writing. UCC 120139. Slave. In the first sense, a person who is wholly subject to the will of another, one who has no freedom of action, but whose person and services are wholly under the control of another. 2. One who is under the power of a master and who belongs to him, so the master may sell and dispose of his person, of his industry, and of his labor without his being able to do anything, have anything, or acquire anything, but what must belong to his master. Civil Code 1838, Article 35, Black's 4th. Software. Software means a computer program and any supporting information provided in connection with a transaction related to the program. The term does not include a computer program that is included in the definition of goods. UCC 9102A74. Sovereign. One who possesses supreme authority. Chief or highest, supreme in power, supreme in position to all others, independent of and unlimited by any other. Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 5th edition, 1947, see note. Note, possibly the best and simplest definition of what a sovereign actually is contained within the definition of the term sui juris, of his own right, possessing full social and civil right, not under any legal disability or the power of another, or guardianship. Underline emphasis added. The unit of sovereignty, autonomy, and government is each free will being. See sui juris quote from Theodore Roosevelt on sovereigns at the beginning of this book. Sovereign people, the political body consisting of the entire number of citizens and qualified electors who, in their collective capacity, possess the powers of sovereignty and exercise them through their chosen representative. Mannion versus State. That's from Black's 4th. Sovereign power or sovereignty. That power in a state to which none other is superior or equal. Black's 1st. See note. Sovereignty. Supreme dominion. Authority or rule. Black's 7th. The possession power, supreme political authority, paramount control of the Constitution and frame of government and its administration, the self-sufficient source of political power from which all specific political powers are derived, the international independence of a state, combined with the right and power of regulating its internal affairs without foreign dictation, also a political society or state which is sovereign and independent. Black's 1st. Congress can exercise no power by virtue of any supposed inherent sovereignty in the general government. Indeed, it may be doubted whether the power can be correctly said to appertain to sovereignty in any proper sense as an attribute of an independent political community. The power to commit violence, perpetrate injustice, take private property by force without compensation to the owner, and compel the receipt of promises to pay in place of money may be exercised, as it often has been, by irresponsible authority, but it cannot be considered as belonging to a government founded upon law. But be that as it may, there is no such thing as a power of inherent sovereignty in the government of the United States. Giuliard versus Greenman. That's a case from 1884. See note. Note, regaining personal sovereignty is a matter of 1, taking complete legal control of the use of both your true name and trade name, each of which is an article of property under the common law, and 2, contracting only with those with whom you desire to transact business upon receiving an appellation. See appellation. Special, related to or designating a species, kind, or sort, designated for a particular purpose, confined to a particular purpose, object, person, or class, the opposite of general. Black's 1st. Compare general. Special appearance. 1. A defendant's pleading that either claims that the court lacks personal jurisdiction over the defendant or objects to improper service of process. 2. A defendant showing up in court for the sole purpose of contesting the court's assertion of personal jurisdiction over the defendant. Black's 7th. Specie. Coin of the precious metal of a certain weight and fineness and bearing the stamp of the government, denoting its value as currency. Black's 1st. Stare decisis. Latin, to stand by things decided. the doctrine of precedent under which it is necessary for a court to follow earlier judicial decisions when the same points arise again in litigation. Black's 7. State. State means the state of the United States, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, the United States Virgin Islands, or any territory or insular possession subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. UCC 9102A 76C note. Note, the above definition as presented is not inclusive of the 50 several states. Further, UCC 9307H reads, location of United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. Statute, an act of the legislature adopted under its constitutional authority by prescribed means and in certain forms so that it becomes the law governing conduct within its scope. Statutes are enacted to prescribe conduct, define crimes, create inferior government bodies, appropriate public monies, and in general to promote the public welfare. Barron's 3rd. Compare civil law, common law. See note. Note, statutory law is concerned with persons, artificial, and their privileges, duties, and obligations regarding collective public government welfare. It does not and cannot deal with sovereign men and women, people, unless, of course, such sovereigns voluntarily contract away their sovereignty. Stramanius homo, a man of straw, one of no substance, put forward as bail or surety. Black's 1st. See straw man. Stratocracy, a military government, government by military chiefs of an army. Black's 6. Straw man or party, a front, a third party who is put up in name only to take part in a transaction, nominal party to a transaction. Black's 6. The term is also used in commercial and property context when a transfer is made to a third party. The straw man person simply for the purpose of retransferring to the transferor in order to accomplish some other purpose, in order to accomplish some purpose otherwise not permitted. Barron's 3rd. See note, Stramanius homo. Note, the straw man is an artificial person. See artificial person created by law shortly after one's birth via registration of the biological property in a birth record, document, certificate, a document of title. See birth certificate, and the inscription on other documents thereafter of a mirror image, all capital letters trade name. See all capital letters written. The straw man has a fictitious name. See fictitious name written in a manner not provided for in the rules of English grammar. See proper. Your straw man has the same sounding, see item sonans, name as your true name, but is artificial and exists only by force of or in contemplation of law. See person. A straw man is a distinct legal entity, corporate, that benefits the creator, United States government, because the creator can then accomplish things in the name of the straw that would not otherwise be permitted. Example given, secretly acquire property, do business with one's enemies, etc. The people of the world have been politically and financially ravaged because they did not know of their alter ego, public persona, straw man. Bankrupt governments use such straw men for the purpose of siphoning wealth from otherwise sovereign men and women on behalf of their creditor, the Federal Reserve, IMF. After redemption, the straw man trade name can be used for your benefit rather than your continued exploitation. Under the UCC, our straw man is defined as and serves as a transmitting utility. See transmitting utility. The operators, controllers of the political, economic, industrial system have set it up so that the only way that flesh and blood, men, women, and children can access the industrial goods and services of the nation is through a nominal party, a front man, a dummy. See dummy, a public corporation of one. See public corporation. A corporately colored juristic person, a straw man, a utility, through which said goods and services may be transmitted. In other words, the only way one can acquire the goods and services of the nation is through the straw man. You cannot keep your body alive and survive in the world today without the industrial goods and services of the nation. So you are forced to interface through your straw man in order to partake of them. Because the straw man has no body, and because you are the only one actually benefiting from the consumption, use of the industrial goods and services of the nation, and because before redemption you do not hold title regarding your straw man, you are the one responsible for discharging the public liability associated with the benefits that you enjoy courtesy of your straw man. 1. Purpose not otherwise permitted mentioned above is extraction of income tax from a sovereign. In other words, you, something for which you would not otherwise give consent. All income is corporate income, and the straw man is a dummy public corporation. Because the straw man is registered, birth certificate, and because you cannot work for another except via his labor license, social security card, and cannot have a bank account except through his serial number, social security account number, taxes are relatively easily monitored, assessed, and collected. All claims made against you, both civil and criminal, are instituted into your straw man's trade name, which is held in custody by the state register. Accordingly, upon reaffirming legal title, you gain capacity to protect your interests so that others cannot come against you via your straw man's trade name and perfect the claim. A strawman is a construct of law, is a fictitious entity, is a person, is an artificial person, is a juristic person, is a dummy corporation, is a public corporation, is a public vessel, is a transmitted utility, is an employee, is an individual, is a citizen of the United States. Alter ego. In the first sense, a second self. In the second sense, an inseparable friend. And at this moment in time, we are going to pause and we will ask you to like, share, and subscribe, people. Be peaceful, be blessed, and pray to pass God's test. And another thing, understand you can't make a shot you don't take. So take a shot. And I will talk to you guys